So thanks to the virality of all things TikTok and Instagram Reels, I've noticed a huge uptick in people talking about storage best practices, meaning SD cards, compact flash cards, CF Express cards. Some people go as far as to say they buy new cards before every wedding, which is insane. I'm not going to use this video to get into a big debate or deep dive into my workflow. I actually have lots of posts over on my Patreon about exactly how my workflow operates. But one aspect of my workflow that I always sort of kept in the bucket as an optimization and speed use case is building smart previews with Lightroom. But aside from the many advantages to building smart previews, like I said, you get speed, you get huge just optimization across the board, and it's really easy to back up your files over the cloud if you're traveling with a slow internet connection using smart previews. I'm not going to get into all that, but one huge component of it just kind of requires a little bit of a mindset shift into what it actually allows for. And that's basically that smart previews will let you know if you have a corrupted RAW file on import. Why is that the case? Well, all smart previews are, let's jump over here to Lightroom, is a collection of really low-res DNG files that sit in a sidecar file wherever your Lightroom catalog is saved. So I've got my 2024 catalog, and yeah, if you open this up and show package contents, I don't recommend you do this unless you know what you're doing. You'll see a huge array of folders, and this is basically just an organized, labeled with UDID tags, collection of low-resolution RAW files. You can see this is a RAW file that's a DNG, and it's only 542 kilobytes. So it's probably like 2,500 or so pixels wide at most. It's very lightweight and easy to work with. But rendering that smart preview at all wouldn't be possible if it was from a corrupted RAW file. And when you come back to your computer after, say you import 1,000 or many thousands of photos after a wedding day, when you come back to your computer, if it says a smart preview was not able to be rendered, pay attention to that error notification. Was it because you ran out of storage space wherever you were trying to save them? Was it something else? It'll let you know if it was unable to read the original RAW file. And again, there's many little things you need to check mark and make sure are configured correctly for a really speed optimized workflow. But if you're just interested in having sort of a first step, let me check to see if all my RAW files are corrupted or not, which is a good thing to consider. Make sure in the import dialog box in Lightroom that you have build smart previews selected. That's pretty straightforward. Now, the big trade-off here is that, yeah, it's going to take time for it to render the smart previews. If you have 5,000 RAW files from a wedding day, you know, it's going to take a little while, probably 30, 40 minutes. And so this is a step that I do at the end of the night, coming back from a wedding. I go to sleep, wake up, my smart previews are rendered, standard previews are rendered, everything's good to go. Again, I'm not going to get into all the different workflow optimizations other than to say, if you have build smart previews selected, now here you can see I've got a corrupted RAW file and then 4 non-corrupted ones. They're just black because I took pictures with my body cap on my camera. Okay, I'm going to import that, and automatically it's going to copy to my final destination. It's going to start to render standard previews, and then boom, this file cannot be opened by Lightroom. So that is the corrupted file that I corrupted on purpose before importing, copied it to my memory card, and that is a red flag to you as a photographer that you might have something wrong with your memory card. Hopefully you shot on a body that supports dual cards and you can just pull out the other one and import from that and everything will be fine. Sometimes it's not though. Sometimes the corruption occurs from literally the OS of the camera you're shooting on, and it'll write the error to both cards. That is just crappy programming, and there's not a lot you can do about that. I haven't seen an issue like that personally in a long time. So aside from that one file, my other RAW files came through just fine. They're rendered to smart previews. We're good to go. So smart previews just have layer upon layer of benefits that Adobe seems too stupid to maximize and lean into and realize how you can use all this stuff. I'm not going to get into why I think Adobe is so problematic as a company, but I do want to talk about a free app. I'll include it in a link to this post, and it is called F3X Swift. It runs on Mac OS. You just select whatever volume you want, and what this does is check every single sector of that volume, in this case my SD card. It'll read, and then it gives you the option to skip write, but I'd recommend do both. It'll read and write data to every single sector on your SD card to check for any potential issues. I highly recommend you do this with any new SD card that you buy, and if it comes back totally fine, you're good to go. You don't really have to worry about it unless you have poor practice in ejecting while things are being written to your card, or pulling the card from your computer before it's been ejected properly. Don't do that. That is just asking for data corruption. But if this app comes back totally clean, your memory card is fine. Now, if you try and save money and buy SanDisk or any budget options that are likely to be ripped off and cloned and be basically fraudulently manufactured, you really need to try this app to make sure every sector in your memory card is okay. There is definitely a difference in quality at the manufacturing level of how reliable and long-term a memory card is going to last. There's a lot of other things that factor into it, like the heat exposure of a memory card, or if you're shooting video versus photo, video is going to burn through a memory card a lot faster than a still photo. But yeah, I've been very, very happy the past few years with the Sony Tough Cards. I literally only own 4 memory cards. It's 2 Sony Tough CF Express and 2 SD. They're both quite large. The SD cards are both 256 gigabytes each. The CF Express are 512. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. I have yet another Patreon post reviewing specifically the Sony Tough Cards and why I use them and what their advantages are. But yeah, if you want this app, just follow the link attached to this video. It's totally free. And just keep in mind, if you haven't thought about Smart Previews as being an actual tool to check against file corruption before you format your memory cards and you're on to the next shoot, I highly recommend you think about it that way and you start to implement Smart Previews very, very early on in your workflow process. Again, I have them rendered right as I import all my images. I don't use Photo Mechanic. I don't use anything else before Lightroom. And this is one of the many reasons for that. As always, thank you so much for your attention, and I'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.